Good day, you beautiful people of YouTube. It's the Mad Marine here, and today we have a treat. We're going to be talking about an AK Polish Hellpup SBR. Now, before I go any further, this is an approved, registered, and paid for tax stamp for an SBR. And the reason why is that's because that's what the law requires, and people hate fun. So this is registered SBR. I will not show you my paperwork because there's a lot of personal information on there, and I just like to keep that private. Now, if you could do me a huge favor, please subscribe, share, comment, and like. That helps the channel out tremendously. And I want to go ahead and talk about something that hasn't been popularized on this channel. In the description, no matter what we're talking about, there's a link in the description with a Google spreadsheet. This Google spreadsheet has items, cost, and links to help you out to whatever it is we happen to be talking about at the time. So today that link will have everything you need about this gun, about this particular firearm. So let's go ahead and do a quick safety check for all you safety-minded individuals and safety Nazis. Now, as I said, this is a Polish SBR registered, and it has a side folding stock. Yay! All right. Now, our quick shot little safety thing, and they allow you to shoot steel core ammo on the range, so very important for you people who shoot AKs with steel ammunition. In Atlanta, Georgia, they have 2 locations. They need to start paying me to do these videos. No, it's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind promoting people. There's another range, and they actually have 2 locations as well in Atlanta, Georgia, and they are range gun and safe, and they'll allow you to shoot steel core. Last time I was there, it's been a while though. So we've gone ahead and let's do our safety check. Nothing in the barrel, nothing in the magazine, if you can see, and we're good to go. Let's go ahead and put the weapon on safe. All right. So, if you want to actually do this build, there's a couple things we need to talk about first. And one is the order of what you're going to build it in. So because we're building an SBR, we definitely want to stay on the right side of the law here and avoid up to 10 years in prison and up to $100,000 fine, 10 years in prison if you get busted with an illegal SBR. So it's important to follow process, procedure, and the law. So let's do that. So I'm going to give you the procedure of what you want to go in order. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and buy that gun. Take it to the range, test fire it, get comfortable with it, and that way you know it works. So before you're starting this SBR process, you know you have a gun that works. The second thing we're going to do is go ahead and set up our Form 1 for our SBR. And what we need to do is we're going to pay for that tax stamp and send the application off for its approval. And that'll come back eventually. Talk more about the time period. The third thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and order our parts. Now we're going to need to order a new rear trunnion. We're going to need to order rivets, and we're going to need to order a stock. Now you can order any stock you want, but in the descriptions under the parts list, I chose a Polish side folding stock, something similar to this. Mine's actually a Romanian push button. Now let's go ahead and talk about the gun. We'll start from the top and work our way down. Now on the Polish Hellpup, they actually come with a booster, and I've taken this off, and one of the ways you can remove it, there's a small tack weld right here. All you need to do is just get a Dremel or a small file. You can cut it off, and then it'll come loose. Pretty easy. Nothing spectacular about that. So they come with a booster, and the reason why they have the booster is for additional gas pressure. Now, I've never had an issue with gas pressure in this rifle as far as its cycling. I've used the booster a lot. I've used the slant brake, the standard AK slant brake, 45 degree. I've used the Romanian flash hider brake, and it's been fine. And then I've used the standard thread protector. I think this came off of a Draco I had, and all of these have worked fine with this particular rifle. So the booster's nice, but if I can't put a bayonet on it, I'm just gonna leave the booster on. So maybe that's another project for another day. The next thing we're going to talk about is the gas tube. The gas tube actually is a specialized gas tube for pistol or SBRs, so you won't be able to change that out. However, the furniture will be able to change out with just about any AK, with the exception of Yugoslavian or RPK style AK furniture. So those are the ones that will not be compatible as far as furniture goes. Everything else should be basically compatible. One thing I would like to talk about is the front sight. If you want to adjust the front sight on any AK, you're going to need a front sight tool. I highly recommend, if you're actually going to do this, to get a quality AK front sight tool. It will save you from a lot of obscenities. So sometimes these things work, sometimes they don't. Also, a little bit of a gun oil would help as well to help things move along, to make things a little bit easier. But one thing I would do is, you notice it's just sight radius from the front sight to the rear sight is actually a lot shorter than a standard AK. This is the one time I'd actually recommend a rail dust cover with a rear sight back here. This gives you much greater sight radius, might help you out shooting things at farther distances. Not that you wouldn't have the ability to hit things with this, but it would be a bit better. But do as you like. Now, my AK has the factory trigger in here, and the reason why is it's fine. I don't have any issues with it. I did remove it at one point and tried to put in some type of aftermarket trigger. I don't know if it was the Tapco G2 or an SGL or something like that, trigger or Geisley or something like that, but it wouldn't fit. So right now the factory one's the only one that wouldn't fit. But one thing I do recommend, and I could cut into the trigger slot right here and make it a little bit bigger and open it up so other triggers would fit. But honestly, I'm fine with the way it is. Now, one thing I do recommend when removing the trigger, and you're going to have to remove the trigger later on if you're actually going to SBR this thing the right way, is using an AK trigger pin. What are these things called? AK trigger pin plate. And this goes up here to the safety. This catches this pin, and this catches the other pin. These are really, really great for your AKs, and they sit kind of like this, and you won't lose your trigger pins. So I recommend that. The standard thing that's in there is the shepherd hook. These things aren't the best, so I'd recommend go ahead and replacing it when you do that. You can buy these super cheap, even on like eBay. I think even Amazon sold them at one point, but they're not much. They're under $10. Now, the reason why I chose this particular rifle, or sorry, pistol at the time, but now it's a rifle, the Hellpup, is because it comes with actually a standard AK Trunnion, but all they've done is cut the back of the Trunnion off. Now, I don't know if you can see very well, but you can see the machining marks where they cut, and they just repainted right over the bare metal where they cut. And they then put a small end plate on the back of the receiver to hide it. And all they did was actually do 3 little tack welds. Now, I tried to straighten this out, and all I did was end up destroying the tack welds for the most part. But as you can see, there's one there, and then one tiny little one that went right there. And that was all that was holding this. So all you need to do is get a screwdriver and use just a little bit of kinetic motivation and pop this off, and you're good to go. Now, if you wanted to cheat and not remove the rear trunnion with a drill press and put new rivets in, if you wanted to do the cheapest thing possible, what you could do is just get a small Dremel, and I don't know if you can see, there's a small tack weld in that hole which prevents you from putting screws in all the way. And I think that camera's focusing a little bit on it. But anyway, if you could Dremel out that small tack weld, you'd have one hole for your rear trunnion. Ideally, that's not exactly what you want, but here's the comparison. So the tang, the screw, basically this right here, that's the second hole, and that's the rest of the trunnion, and here's the tang. So it goes out here. And this is what sits in here like that. So technically, if you were fine with only having one screw, I would definitely Loctite it if you went this way. All you would need to do is just pop the plate off, remove the tack weld, get your SBR paperwork, and put in the stock, and you're good to go with one screw. But I chose to do it the right way. But, you know, if you want to save yourself some headache and time and money, do it that way. I promise you it'll be fine. You probably won't have any problems whatsoever. And you can do it that way. So one of the things, once you have everything, all your parts and everything like that, Oh, I'm sorry. So the reason why we chose the Polish Hellpup for this thing is because most other AK pistols don't have this as an option. They don't use standard trunnions. They use different trunnions. And you'll notice, because the rivets are in different places, there'll be like one at the top, one at the bottom, or one at the bottom, one up here. So it doesn't fit the standard pattern. So if you were to use something else, you'd have to go and fill in the holes, remove the rivets anyway, fill in the holes you don't need, and then cut new holes. And it's just more work. I'm not opposed to it. I just didn't want to invest the time and money having to do it, and this seemed to be the best option at the time. So that's why we're using the Polish Hellpup. There are other AK pistols I'd love to use, but this seemed to be the easiest at the time. If you happen to know anything about any AK pistols that have the same standard trunnion, let me know. I'd love to look into it. Love to do another SBR build at some point. One of the things you want to do is, if you're not extraordinarily confident in your mechanical abilities, you could try to look for a local AK builder, and a quick internet search shouldn't be too hard. It's pretty easy. It's not that hard, especially if you have the right tools. It's going to be so much easier for you. If not, a local machinist could probably help out. At worst case scenario, you send it off or you do it yourself. There's one other thing you possibly could do, and I would just recommend this to do for yourself, is I would get involved in your state's local gun forum. Each state has their own gun forum kind of community, and they all have different names, so unfortunately I can't tell you alabamagunforum.com or anything like that. But it does something like that in Alabama, and pretty much all 50 states does exist. Now, someone on that website probably could help you out. And I don't know if you're familiar with the gun community, but we're a lot of friendly folks. We want to help people out, no matter who you are, as long as it's legal. And, a polite society, or an armed society, is a polite society. So once, we've talked about it a little bit already, but once you remove the rear plate and popped it off, and you decide to go, you're not going to remove the small little tack weld for the small little screw slot there, and you're going to do it the right way. What you need to do is drill out the rivets in the rear trunnion. So this is where this used to go. There used to be 2 rivets right on top of here, and you're going to need to drill those out. Now, when you drill those out, I highly recommend you have a drill press, because doing it by hand with a regular drill, you're not going to do it really good. Also, if you have a guide of some type, now they do make jigs or special guides that you can spend money on, but hopefully you find somebody who can help you out. Now, what you'll do is you'll drill down to the rivet, and you're going to get rid of the rivet. And then what you're going to do is use a punch, and you're going to try to just pop it off. Just get enough leverage down there to pop off just a little bit of the rivet that's left, because you've removed a lot of the material from the rivet. Once you've popped those off, you have a couple of options. One option is you get a hammer and a punch that's smaller than the rivet holes, and you knock them all the way out. That's what I did. That's what I would recommend. Now, you can drill all the way through. I don't recommend that, because this metal is really hard, and what you're drilling into is pretty tough as well. And if you screw up, it's going to cause a lot of problems. The other thing is, if you're drilling in here and you snap this, now you've got a drill bit and the rivet stuck in there, and life is not going to be fun. So I recommend just hammering them on out with a punch, and for me, a little kinetic motivation, and this wasn't too hard. All right, so we've punched out our rivets. The next thing we're going to need to do is make sure our new trunnion, and let's pretend this is our new trunnion, not our own trunnion, will fit into our receiver. Now, you may need to do a little bit of filing right here just to make sure everything lines up nice and smooth. The other thing to keep in mind is when you put the rivets in and the new trunnion in, you're going to compress this. So this is going to squeeze very close together. So you don't want metal bending or bowing or breaking or anything like that. So you want to get a good smooth fit. And you'll just need a small set of metal files to do this. And honestly, I know it sounds like I'm saying this is a lot of work. It's not. It's super easy. I think I spent like 5 minutes filing. But we broke one rivet, or we broke one punch on one of the rivets at one point. But honestly, it wasn't hard at all, and it was a pretty easy process. So I might be freaking some of you out as far as the process goes. But anyway, once you get these things to fit with the new Trunnion, mess with the Trunnion first as far as filing things down. This is a $10 part versus this is almost a $580 something gun. So break this, don't break this. So for me, once you press those in, you're good to go. You'll make sure your stock fits. Now my stock is actually a Romanian push button. I had this laying around, and I decided to use it. If you also have a Romanian lever folding stock, that'll work well. I chose for this one a Polish one for the builds part because it was, I think, $80. So $80 for a side folding Polish stock, not bad. It'd be nicer to get a better quality one. You can also use a standard wood stock or the Magpul. What is that thing called? The Magpul side folding one. Can't remember the name of it, but you can use the Magpul one if you want. Whatever you want to decide to go with, you should be fine. Just make sure you put it correctly down on your Form 1. And once you have your Form 1, you're good to rock and roll. The overall cost of mine was $800. So again, wasn't terrible for me, and that was including the cost of the tax stamp. Today, if I were to redo the rifle as is with the tax stamp, it would be $1,040.08 is where I priced it out at. And you can check out the link in the description for parts and prices. Currently for Form 1s, the wait times are basically anywhere from, I've heard, best case scenario 14 days, worst case scenario about a year in 2020, and it is August. I highly recommend you e-file, because if you're sending in paper copies, I imagine there's quite less people in the office processing Form 1s or Form 4s or whatever than normal due to the virus. The again, average wait time is probably closer to a month. I've had one that took me 87 days, which was awesome. I've also had another one that took me 357 days. So you kind of hope and pray that eventually it comes in, and for a while you're running to the mailbox every day looking for a letter from the government that says you can move forward. I hope this helps you. If you can always email me any questions or concerns you may have. My email's in the description. Please subscribe and share. That helps the channel out the most. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great one. And Mad Marine signing off.